happens. Usually, trees, for instance, grow where they're most tender. I mean, don't get me wrong, they grow in terms of girth with each ring, but a lot of the growth happens in the areas where they're very vulnerable.
Yep, that's true.
So that's usually an indication that it's a good place to explore.
I remember a mentor once said, when you're happy, enjoy it. Enjoy that place. And then when something is feeling uncomfortable, that's your place of growth. And he said he celebrates his discomfort. And I went, oh, I don't know about celebrating it. However, it's true. It's the truth.
Yeah, I from what I've been really working with over these last few years is getting comfortable with the discomfort
Mm.
is just crucial for any way of living life. Life is inherently uncomfortable. Loss, hardships, failure, pains, these are all inherent in living life. So if we want to live life or engage with it, then yeah, we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes. And also and uncertainty is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. And it's interesting because I was again, I listened to inspirational podcasts and talks and books and I thought, yeah, change is uncomfortable. And yet I embrace it because I want to change my thinking. I want to feel calmer, and that's a change, right? So it's interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's something to look forward to too.
I think it can be. It should be. It really should be. When we look at all the habits of the universe that we live in, the world that we live in, the reality of this world, even the things that are believed to be constants, like the speed of light, for instance, we're finding out completely fluctuates and there's really no constant. Everything is in a pattern of change. And it seems like that is the only truly guaranteed reality of this world, is that things are going to change. So where does this fear and this constriction and resistance to probably the most fundamental aspect of our reality come from, I wonder?
Yeah, that's that. I think, well, interesting because that was, it's interesting that I also believe in synchronicity, and that was interesting because I did a reading on that, and fear comes from all over the place, whether it's a belief we have,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's something we heard, and maybe we're assuming something, or we're living in the past, or we're thinking about the future. It's not present. That's what I do know about fear. And for myself, I'm speaking for myself, though I also, as you know, I have a private practice, so I bring in my clients' experience. I think a lot of it is perceived, and yet in our bodies, it feels real,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Um, and again, it's interesting because the fear is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So when we talk about that, so it could be fear of failure, could be fear of pain, fear of grief, and anticipatory fear is anxiety.
Yeah.
And again, it's not living in the present.
Yeah, that's right. Perhaps this is a sign of us being disconnected from ourselves and from our real nature, which, if we're fearing one of the most guaranteed aspects of our lives, which is change, and we're resistant to it, I think that's an indication that we've become very much disconnected. And so fear, which is a very valuable signal from our bodies, it's an emotion, it's a feeling, it's
Yeah.
a way of telling us how to interact with our environment and the world around us. We've lost our connection to it. And so then we don't know what's actually a threat and what's dangerous and what isn't. So the things that are not dangerous, we feel the very real fear, but it might not be coming from that thing. I mean, for much of my life, I could be sitting in a room with my two dogs, having a great time. There are no threats. This is one of the most cherished, lovely moments of my life. And then a spell of fear and anxiety just comes over me. And what is that about? Well, what I found is that this was not fear from anything that was happening here. This was fear from the past that hadn't
Yeah.
been processed. So these residual emotions keep coming up, and then we project them onto things that are inherent that we should actually be leaning into or really trying to live in a sense. So then we are disconnected in so many other ways.
100%. And I think what happens too is and I'm generalizing that, and this was how I was brought up in this, I'm in North America, and it was, if something was uncomfortable, you wanted to immediately make yourself comfortable. So we push the discomfort away because, and I know I learned it was wrong. And so my clients, and I love what you said, and I learned that is to bring it in, and then ask, be curious. Where is this coming from? Where is the pain? Where is the whether it's anger, any of these emotions that are uncomfortable, and the fear, where is that coming from? And even just acknowledging it is already big. So I don't want to miss that step, is acknowledging the fear first. And then usually our body calms down a little bit so that we can bring it in closer. And and it's interesting too how you said, you are having this great moment, and then it's almost like a wave or like clouds coming in, and knowing that that is a thought that has brought this fear, and whether it's from the past or some memory, which is the past, and knowing that it's going to keep moving, and to allow that movement, and you could still look at it and go, oh, there it goes, or sit with it a while, and that's voluntary. It's not a have to. We don't have to.
Yeah. So now we're talking about being present with the things that we're feeling, which, I mean, as you were pointing out just a minute ago, almost every one of us in our culture, don't get me wrong, I think that there are still cultures around the world that are much more connected and in tune with what they're feeling, and they have the ability to be present with it. But in our culture in particular, we've become very disconnected from the things that we're feeling. And then we are constantly chasing comfort, commodity, this like flatlining of our experiences where we try to get rid of anything that doesn't fit in the tiny box of parameters of what we want. But then we cut out so many other things. For instance, when I was, back in 2015 now, I went on a cross-country bike trip with my two dogs and two friends with no money. We had no money. This was so scary, so dangerous. There was so much potential for things to go wrong. 8 months crossing the country. And it was one of the most fulfilling experiences that I've ever had. Challenging, very painful, very difficult. And yet, when I was on that trip, I met so many people who said, God, I wish I could do what you're doing. And I would always ask them, why can't you? And then they would give me this long list of excuses. And I knew that they were excuses because synchronicity, usually the day before or within a few days of that, I would have met somebody who's doing the same trip that I'm doing with the conditions that these people are using as excuses. So they'd say, I can't do it. I got kids. And then I would have just met somebody who was out on a trip with their 3 little kids.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I got dogs. Well, I had 2 dogs that were either running with me or I was pulling them. I can't do it. I don't have the money for that. Well, I don't have any money either. It's uncomfortable. Yeah, sleeping out and, on logs and sleeping wherever you can find a place to sleep and going with the whim of life. But that really required the ability to be present. And I think that
Yeah.
that's something that is really lacking or missing right now in terms of when we have these fears, what can we do with it? And that's the first thing I think that you're pointing out is, well, first thing is we got to do is recognize that it's here, and then we got to do something with it.
And what I've noticed is when I'm truly present in the moment and with the trees, with the morning, with the breath, there it's perfect. There's a calm and that, and then I've learned too to ask different questions of myself. So, when I wake up or, these things are percolating, these thoughts are percolating, it's like, okay, what's going to make today great? What will be the adventure? Can we be open to the day
Mm-hmm.
and come in with that presence? And that's a practice. And I've kind of come and gone from that, which is interesting to me. And I think life will take us different places. And like you mentioned too, sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's disappointing. And then, what do you do with that? You don't have to hang on to it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were traveling, that's a beautiful, not just a metaphor, it's actually real, because then you were moving.
Mm-hmm.
You were leaving those whatever behind.
Yeah. Disappointment, such a important word that you use there.
Mm,
Disappointment happens, this is the way I see it, which is something that I want to happen, a belief, a view, an expectation of mine isn't happening. And
right.
so when we put what type of life we want to live into a little box, and if
Mm,
it's outside of that box, we don't want it, well, then we suffer. Joseph
yep.
Campbell famously said, you have to let go of the life that you want in order to make room for the life that is being given to you. Yeah. And so when we put ourselves in our life in this little box, then we can't engage in the adventure of life, the great grand adventure, which is what I think every one of us is being called is being called to answer, is to participate in this great adventure of life. And things like disappointment, fear, and discomfort are barriers that are stopping us from participating in that adventure.
Well, it's interesting when you said, when you quoted him, and I just wrote it down about the life that's given to us, and we can choose our perspective on it. And that is a fascination as
Hmm.
well. And it's whatever that situation is in front of us, we can choose. We can choose whether we're going to be upset about it. We can
Yeah.
choose whether we're going to be disappointed. We can also choose and go, wow, I'm breathing, I'm feeling, I'm here
Yeah.
in this living miracle of life,
Hmm.
and I can bring that perspective to the situation, and then it changes it. It becomes an opportunity, and sometimes that stretches my brain in the sense of, depending how unpleasant something is.
Yeah.
And, our brains are going, no, 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 this is not good. And yet when we open ourselves up to that uncomfortable and, sit back and just go, okay, what makes this a miracle? What makes this perfect?
Hmm.
What is this opportunity and this gift? Yeah.
Yeah.
They're choices. They're choices.
Perspective.
Perspective.
Yeah. When I'm working with people, I often talk about worldview as being one of the most important things that we have control over.
Yep.
I don't know if we can necessarily control the way that we feel about things, but we can change the way that we look at the situation, which then impacts the way that we feel about it. It's like a lens that you look through. You can take that
Yeah.
lens out and then put a new one in, and that will change your entire experience.
Well, and I hear what you're saying because feelings, our emotions and feelings, our needs, our longings are not to be defended or justified or criticized or analyzed. They just are because we're human and we're all different. However, the caveat that I put on it is how we continue to feel.
Hmm.
So if we want to, this perspective, if we want to stay in disappointment, then it becomes a choice. That first
Yes.
feeling
Hmm.
as a human, um, that's just human. We're not unfeeling amoebas. We're
Hmm.
human with
Yeah.
this full spectrum. And if we hang on to something, then that becomes a choice. However, you and I and maybe 8 other people in a situation will all have different responses,
Hmm.
and none of them are right or wrong. And then how we continue after,
Right.
I mean, then that's again, we can be open to the next, or we can stay somewhere.
Hmm. Yeah, the way that you interact with it and the way that you look at it, your relationship with the thing that's happening is usually what dictates the experience that you have. And
True.
that is where we have power and choice. And the feelings, a lot of the times, just like we were talking earlier about avoiding discomfort or avoiding fear,
Mm.
a lot of the times we have that initial feeling of an experience, then we say, I don't want that. And then we are in resistance to the reality of the situation, then we can't actually engage with it. We can't even see it clearly enough to engage
Mm.
with it.
And they're clues too.
Yeah.
I find um, that the more that we're aware, the more that we can check in and know ourselves. They're clues, and that we naturally want to go where we feel better. And what I've noticed is that whether I think I've done it too, and I think my practice is to come out of that more and more, is not to be in the construct of I should be a certain way or I must do
Hmm.
a certain way, because those are cultural beliefs or social beliefs that I learned, and instead trust my body and trust that curiosity. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah, it's a journey and a process for sure.
Hmm. That curiosity is so powerful, though. Because
Mm,
I don't know if it's so much of just pursuing the areas where I feel good, because in order to get to the areas where I feel good, a lot of the times I have to go through areas where I don't feel good. If I want to become very strong physically and be in great shape, I'm going to have to push my body through discomfort. That's just how it works. If I want to become an athlete, or I want to be able to run, or if I want to be able to get on my horse as I do and go and ride miles through the forest, I have to be in a good enough shape to handle that. And in order to do that, I have to get comfortable with the discomfort of that. So being able to push myself through and making choice here of I'm going to put myself in uncomfortable situations that will then lead to this wonderful feeling. There's nothing better than being in wild Florida, where there's panthers and all sorts of cats, giant wild cats and owls, and you're just deep in the forest on a horse. There's no sounds of anybody around you. There's nobody that you can see, and you're just there with your animals. That's uncomfortable. There's spiders. There's all sorts of things there's
yep.
bears, and anything can go wrong in an instant, and there's nobody there to come and save you right away. So it's very scary and it can be very uncomfortable, and it opens up to such a wonderful experience that you can't get without going through that.
True. And yeah, and that's, I mean, you you've kind of hit it all in a nutshell on that. And the interesting part when you said that experience, there's something about animals. They sense curiosity, they sense danger,
Hmm.
they also sense calmness. I have a pond, and I was cleaning my pond out, and there was this big snapping turtle, probably 10 inches, the size of a large dinner plate, a very large dinner plate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just assuming as a boy, I didn't startle him. And I just kind of mentally just went, he knows he's safe. It's his third summer. And he didn't move away because I was raking.
Mm-hmm.
And so I raked around him and I actually touched his shell and he still didn't move. And I
Yeah.
thought, wow, I hope you're okay. And I connected with my friend. She's a biologist. And I said, this turtle just seemed very lethargical. He was, like normally snappers or a turtle will startle and they
Mm-hmm.
swim away.
Or hiss at you and
And
spit at you.
yeah, maybe. Well, he's large enough he could take off a toe or a finger for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And she said, he's comfortable, Elka. He's not sick at all. And I went, oh, interesting. And she said, he just knows you're not going to hurt him. And I said,
Yeah.
100%. There's nothing in my body. And they sense that.
Yes.
And I had a dog. I just lost him. He was almost 14. He would sometimes go in the pond and drink water. And though I know that he has seen snappers come up the driveway, and I said, just watch them, just leave them. And he does. He doesn't hurt them. He doesn't bark at them. So obviously that turtle also understood
Mm-hmm.
that the dog wasn't going to hurt him either.
Yes.
And I think with your adventure with these cats and these large animals, they already know
Yeah.
that this dude is coming just to have a ride and an experience.
Yeah. They can see through us. They can see through not just our thinking patterns, our
Yep.
intentions, but they can see what kind of internal state we're having.
Yep.
I think humans are very sensitive to that too, even though we're very much unaware of it. There's this famous samurai, Miyamoto Musashi, widely renowned, one of the most famous
Mm.
warriors in history. And in one of his pilgrimages, he is walking through this rice paddy, and he's going to this wonderful martial arts school. It's widely renowned. He's going to go challenge all the people there. He's going to go kick some ass. And as he's walking, there's this old farmer who's hunched over in the dirt, and he picks up what he describes as bloodlust from this guy. And he anticipates that this old, decrepit old man who's hunched over is going to attack him with the hoe. And the farmer stands up and starts joking around and laughing at him innocently. And Miyamoto says, I was certain you were about to attack me. And what the farmer says is, no, that's your own bloodlust that you're projecting onto everybody around you. You're making enemies out of everybody who comes past your way. That was a big moment right there where he wasn't aware of his internal state and what he was projecting. And so when he was walking around, everybody was seeing him as a threat and then attacking him, which then kept the negative feedback loop of now he's got this bloodlust. And I
Yep.
think that that's exactly what you're describing. When I'm
Yep.
when I'm in the water, turtles will come right up to me. Otters will come right up to me. I swam next to a gator, and this gator was just totally cool with me. Had no aggression, no fear or anything, because they can see through it and see through me, and they know I am not a threat to them. And it wasn't always that way. I was once just like Musashi, where I was walking around and I had so much fear and so much suspicion and anger inside of me that I was looking at every single person I crossed paths with as a threat. And then they would pick up on my suspicion and my fear and my tension. And then they would get suspicious and scared and tense. And then we're both looking at each other like, who's the weirdo here? And then, that's a combustible situation, to say the least.
It is 100%. And I've had those experiences, and I've had to change my mindset and
Totally.
say, Elka, right now you need to look at this differently and change your mindset
Mm-hmm.
and continue a different way. And usually the person does shift. Sometimes they don't because they're stuck in that other mindset. And then,
Mm-hmm.
you can say, look, this is a new day. There's a correction here. And And I know my dog, he was so sensitive. He was protecting me. He was protecting me emotionally.
Yeah.
And he was also comical. If my energy was off, he'd get up and leave the room. And I just went, okay, Yogi, you're letting me know. I got to check in. And it could have been subtle. Sometimes it wasn't subtle. And yeah, he didn't let me off the hook with anything. And yet he was so loyal, so super stoic, and very, very protective. And then he also picked up on other people's energy in the clinic. And yeah, they're phenomenal, actually. And even once he was gone, my girlfriend's dog, I went over just to drop some things off, and her dog never would pay attention to me or anything. And of course, what does he do? The very first thing, he comes, sits beside me and does a full lean in. And he felt my grieving because it had
Mm.
only been days. And I just went, really, Marlo? Like, and then once there was that connection, he was good. He was back to himself. And it's powerful. So, and when you said this about humans, we do pick up on it. And I did an exercise when I was in the schools, and it was with troubled senior women, high school students, senior young women. And the first thing I did with them, I said, we're going to do an exercise that may feel uncomfortable. However, it'll be okay. And they had a piece of paper. They got lots of paper, and they had to sit in front of each other, a person they had never met, and in silence, tune in, and then either color that paper or write words or whatever they wanted to, what they were picking up. And it was only for 2 to 3 minutes each that the one would just sit in silence, the other look, and then they took
Mhm.
turns. And then afterwards, they got to introduce the person they tuned into,
Mhm.
and the accuracy, it blew them all away.
Yeah.
And I said, we do this. We are so connected. And when you said we forget, we're hurried, um, and we stop doing it. And when we slow down, we can really sense somebody and feel them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
much more to connection, more than beyond just verbal. And so much of we're just up in our heads and our own minds, just completely disconnected. But that's a fantastic exercise right there, isn't it? Where we tune our senses back into something that we're able to perceive, which is these nonverbal communications. I mean, I've done things like that too, where what we do is we both sit with each other and you form an idea, a simple concept like I'm eating an ice cream cone or something like that. And your goal is to see it as vividly as possible and to experience like, oh, it's cold and it's sweet and it's refreshing in the sense. And my job is to try to pick it up. And then after a few minutes, no questions, no going back and forth, I'm going to tell you what I think it is. And it's the same thing. It's amazing how, if it's not almost completely dead on accurate, we're so close. We're getting a lot of the same things there. So much of our experience is communicated non-verbally.
Yeah. And thank you for the opportunity to talk about it, because I think we don't talk about it enough. We don't share about slowing down and making that connection because we're in a rush.
Right.
And to just be with somebody and to feel them, whether it's in the grocery store line or walking by them, or even the grocery clerk. We don't know, and yet we can tune in, and you get a whole array of feelings. And the interesting thing, Julian, what I notice, even when, let's say, we talk about it, is that the feedback I've gotten from others is they doubt it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, I do, but I'm, they're not picking up on it, or they're picking up on it, and then they just go, no, that can't be true. And I'm going, yeah, trust it. 'Cause it's mostly compassionate, it's mostly love and kindness and
Yeah.
grace. There's not, I personally don't get the experience of anything horrific or I don't know, negative or anything like that.
Hmm. In that sense, I think dogs are great teachers.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, because I mean, they can't speak verbally. They can't. I mean, some dogs do. I've seen
Yes.
I've seen lots of them who can very much verbally tell you. But like my dog Layla, she was very vocal and she could communicate full ideas and concepts to you if you would listen.
Mhm.
And I mean, so many of these dogs, they're just teaching us how to reconnect. And in order to do that, yeah, we have to slow down. We've got to get rid of some of that noise and we've got to have boundaries to say that can't come into my life, which it's constantly trying to intrude into our lives and say,
Yeah.
this is my really important area right here, which is whatever I'm connecting with and whatever I'm present with right now. And that's what I want to focus on.
I find, my dog, because I believe animals have a very extensive language with
Hmm.
each other, and, not just barking.
Hmm.
So and my dog, what I would do is get really snuggly with him, and I would moan a certain way or, instead of using words, and it was really fascinating to me because he would come back with moans and
Hmm.
gurgles
Yeah.
and purring,
Yeah.
and it was lovely, like, just this lovely exchange, and I thought, "Yeah, because they do that with each other, and we're not noticing it or paying attention to it." And horses, I mean, oh my gosh, your horse would communicate. I've only done horses. One of my friends has a horse, and she invited me with some horse therapy, and it's mind-boggling at
Yeah.
their sensitivity and what they're willing to carry, that we can give them, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's unbelievably incredible, actually.
It really is. No, I mean, you're talking like the dog. I mean, your dogs and your friend's dog and my dogs, they very much will carry our emotions for us. And they're teaching us how to reconnect with them, how to
Yeah.
process them so they don't just come out in unstructured ways and then hurt people around us, especially them, because they take the blunt of it almost every time. The horses do the same thing. Like my dog used to work in therapy. She used to do all my sessions with me. She worked in the hospital. She had her own badge. She took it very seriously.
Yeah.
She loved the job. And the horses, I mean, they literally carry us. We are on top of them with our feet in their sides and basically with our fingers in their mouth. You know, I mean, we have ropes that are connected into their mouths, but that's basically like having our hands in their mouth, jerking them around. They're so sensitive. They can feel a fly on their hip. And then here we are giving them all these cues and signals, telling them to do things that they may or may not want to do. And yeah, they listen very carefully and they communicate so much too. And, I have all these teachers over here teaching, how to ride horses and how to connect with them. And almost every one of them comes in with you gotta be dominant. You gotta show them who's boss. And they yell at them and they hit them and you
Mm.
gotta let them know. And I don't do any of that. In fact, with my first horse teacher, she's teaching how to wrangle the horses to get them off of the pasture. She's like, you gotta be sneaky. You gotta catch up on them and throw the rope over them and grab them or they're gonna run away. And I was like, why don't you just stay here? Give me 5 minutes. I want to try something. And I walked out to the field and she's like, be careful because they're all grazing right now and they're in their herd mentality. And I went and called 3 horses by name. I said, hey, come here. And they followed me. They came right up to me and they followed me back to the tack room where they knew they were going to get saddled up and ridden to where when the owner of them tries to get them, they run away. So yeah, they carry a lot of our emotions, a lot of our feelings. And I think a lot of times we're just so disconnected that that repressed anger that we have from the past or that fear that we have that's showing up in the present, it just gets thrown right onto them. And yeah, we can do better.
100%. My daughter, that was one of her loves, was horses, and so when she was little, we went to a certain farm,
Hmm.
and then I guess she was about either 10 or 12. She got a grant to work with a woman. We had visited that farm, and this woman was like a horse whisperer, and it was so fascinating. My daughter just loved it. And she learned, and she said, Mom, I just knew there was another way. I knew there was another way. I knew it wasn't right.
Mhm.
And she just resonated so well with this coming and first greeting the horse. This whole ritual of just saying hello, how's
Yeah.
your day been? Not by, hey, I'm here, let's
Right.
go. It
Mhm.
wasn't like that at all. And there was this greeting, and then I watched her after all these lessons. She actually taught a horse how to ride. And here she's this tiny, she was only 12. And she was asking the horse to do certain patterns, and the horse agreed. And that was another thing that we both learned is they choose
Mhm.
to work with us.
Yeah.
Um, they're, what do they weigh, a ton?
Yeah.
Like, they're very big animals.
Yeah.
And watching this little girl, this petite girl, and this big animal, just all eyes on her, and really just listening to some voice commands and some hand.
Yeah.
And they're not, I wouldn't even call them commands. And the horses just love it because they're wanting attention and love,
Connection.
just like, and connection, yeah, like
Mhm.
us,
Yeah.
right?
Now
So
you used
they're,
a very important word, agreement. They agree.
yes,
And I think that's the basis of the connection right there is there has to be an agreement. It can't be you're going to do everything that I want you to do. And if you don't do it, then there will be consequences. It doesn't work like that. With my dog, I had two beagles. And, beagles can be a bit of a handful, especially for somebody like me who's young and didn't really know what I was doing. And I'm living in apartments at the time. And when I went on that bike trip, they were off leash and they would just run with me. And everybody saw them. They're like, beagles off leash? How does that work? I could walk them around the streets of Chicago off leash and they would
wow,
stay right there with me because we had agreements. It was,
right,
you do these things and then we'll do these things together. I will do all the things that you want to do. And I have to be so in tune with them and present with them to know what are the things that really get them ticking, give them a real zest and exuberance for life. And then we got to do it, and we got to do it in the most optimal way. And if I can do that, they'll do anything. They'll do anything to maintain that. And it's the same thing with the horses. If I can find
yeah,
out what is the thing that they really want, what is the need here, and then we do it in the most optimal way, they'll follow you for life.
yeah. And isn't that so true with humans? We can do that with each other out of love and give ourselves this optimal experience, or give the other person the optimal experience.
hmm
And then it's this true listening. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you.
hmm Well, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, which is how these emotions from the past are showing up in the present, which then cause us to be disconnected from life, which is they're here for a reason.
Yeah.
There's something that needs to be addressed, needs to be processed, a need that needs to be fulfilled in some way. So if we can be present with ourselves and really see what is the unmet need that I have here, what needs to be
Yeah.
fulfilled, and then how can I do it in the most healthy, constructive, productive, and optimal way. This is how we can really take care of ourselves, same as we would take care of anybody else. It's crucial if you want to engage and participate in life.
100%. And that it's interesting because, and I'm going to go to what we don't do. When we don't do it, that's exhausting,
Yeah.
and that's anxiety producing. And the reason I'm mentioning it, because I want to encourage people. eh, What I hear is a lot of exhaustion,
hmm
and even anxiety. And I was even looking at that since you and I were talking, and um, I know energy is everything. I already know that, and I already know that vitality and excitement. And there was part of me struggling, and I think a lot of it too was grief. And I'm not sure when you and I spoke. However, I lost my dog this spring, my best friend, and he taught me so much, and he has left a legacy.
Yeah.
And sometimes grief, to honor grief, that energy can drop, and just to be kind. And I think I was. I think I was kind. I feel like I'm coming out of it. And just to, because life it isn't even. And one of my favorite words is practice. I mean, life, you know, it's like, sure, you have these moments of being in the forest with the cats, or swimming, with the alligator, or even I've done scuba diving, and it's unbelievable. The wildlife just goes, "Oh yeah, she's just a big fish." And they're swimming right around you, and in these perfect moments. And then something else happens where, we lose our best fur buddy, and yeah, and life goes up and down, and so do we.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are parts of the experience. There's, it's a part of the whole. If we're going,
Right.
again, change is the only thing that's inherent in this world. It's only guaranteed that our bodies are going to change. They are going to grow. They're going to develop. They are going to decay, and they are going to die. That's how things go. And to be a part of that whole experience is a true gift, but it is so exhausting to try
Mm.
to engage with the experience, but then block out or suppress certain parts of it, like the pain and grief of loss of a cherished friend. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, my dog passed in April this year too. I'm 16 and a half
Oh,
years old. And she was without a doubt my most cherished connection. My partner doesn't even care when I say that, because she knows 16 and a half years, she was an extension of myself. She taught me so much about life. She showed me how to be present with emotions, how to care for myself, how to value myself. And, yeah, then she's got to go. And, that's inherent, and it hurts. It hurts like hell. And that pain is the flip side of all the joy. You can't really have one without the other. If you're going to have the highs of life, you've got to also have the lows. They give each other perspective.
well, what I realized, and I've even said this to my clients, is when the hurt is that deep, the love is that deep.
Yeah.
And, um, as I was and am still going through it on occasion. I think it was just yesterday I was crying in the car, missing him so much.
Yeah.
And and then I think of something funny he did, and you know, we know that nothing is forever. It doesn't prepare us, and yet I just remember thinking I wouldn't trade it. I would still say yes. I would still have him in my life.
Hmm.
And the gifts that I got, actually, um, as I met different people, or people reached out in compassion, and the one woman that saved his life at the shelter, they were going to put him down as a puppy because he's just sat in a corner and growled, and people were afraid of him. And she said, "No, he's just scared. I'm taking him home." And she didn't listen to his growls. She just picked him up and snuggled him, and she fostered him. And then that's when I met him, and I had the opportunity. It was interesting, as you don't think of these things while you're grieving. However, she was offering an event, and I went, oh my gosh, I've got to let her know. So I reached out to her and I sent her a copy of this collage I did of his legacy. And she came back and she said, oh my gosh, you have honored me and you have given him 14 years that he wouldn't have gotten. So she had made this choice that wasn't popular.
Yeah.
They wanted to euthanize him. And she stood up and said no. And yeah. So what a huge gift that I gave her back when she saw this collage. She just went, wow, what a rich life.
Yeah. For both of you.
Yeah. So I think my point is we don't ever know the impact of listening to our intuition
Hmm.
and that awareness, which I think is what we're talking about. She took a risk, and, some may say, oh, well, it's just an animal. It's a small thing. He changed lives. He was also a therapy dog. And he opened doors that I couldn't open. And I'm not putting myself down. It's just the gift that
Hmm.
he gave.
Yeah.
And, yeah, just pretty incredible. So that one decision she made, right? It changed hundreds of lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, by
Yeah.
trusting herself.
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, even right now, when you're explaining this, there's so much energy in your expression. And it would take so much energy to hold that down and resist it because it might be, uncomfortable or painful for some people. But look at how much is here and how much it's been used to, as you said, he's affected hundreds of lives. And Layla was the same way. I can't tell you how much she got into those situations, and she could transform emotions and situations like that in ways that I could never do. It was incredible. And, these dogs are just so magnificent. And yeah, Layla was in a foster home too. Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really something. And it's what's incredible about yogi, and I think, well, you've had this experience, is that the ripple effect
Hmm.
and the gifts of this connection. And I didn't post it or anything. I didn't make it public. It's still tender, and I'm not sure I will. However, I've let people know, and I think what I want to remember is the power that he had, and especially his last few weeks. We worked with a First Nations community that I work with, and we had the opportunity, and he had the opportunity to work with me. And we went to all the kids, their classrooms, and it's amazing because as adults, we can talk about bullying, we can talk about second chances or foster care, and it's like maybe heard. However, when you have this fur baby that's standing in the classroom and you tell his story, all the kids acted differently after I had visited with him, because we also worked where they were staying because they had been evacuated. And it was so impressive to see their compassion and how they took that in, and for themselves as well as for him. Yeah, it's staggering, actually.
Yeah. They're so powerful.
Yeah, well, that's interesting that your Layla did that too. And was she one of your beagles?
Yeah. She was this one on the left of me
Aw.
over here, if you can see her. Yeah. Yeah. They're just so special and so incredible. I look at her as one of the most powerful teachers that I've had in my life. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's what they're here for, and that's what they're doing. And yeah, I really feel for the dogs who came in and for whatever reason were unable to do that. Their owners were just so hard and calloused. I mean, that's how I was when my first dog, Smokey, got to me. I was so hardened from all the defense in my life and all the survival that I had been in, and he had a real difficult time getting through that. He did a great job. And luckily Layla came and helped out after a few years. And between the two of them, we really got to places. But yeah, I really feel for the dogs who were unable to get to that place, who come in here and they suffer terribly because of that. So yeah, it's really
Yeah.
good to see that transformations happen in real time.
Well, one gift that this woman gave me, she said, Elka, she said, because of you, he did so well.
Yeah.
And I thought about it and I thought, as much as as much as he gave to me, and he did open up my heart because being firstborn Aries German, I did not let out a lot of emotion to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a time where I thought I'd lost him because somebody was doing shooting practice, and
Yeah.
he just ran and ran, and he was not a dog to ever leave the property, and he was terrified. And luckily, a neighbor saw him and brought him back, and it broke me open. And I thought from that day forward, I talked to him and I told him every day how important he was. And so, and I hear you is that, if we can open ourselves up to our pets and just even to be quiet with them, that whatever rambunctiousness or whatever they're having, and I love what you said about giving them, finding out what their special thing is, their chocolate, like their Vivive, and they'll stick around, they'll follow you, they'll be with you, and they want to give back so much. They're so loyal, and yeah, is to give them a chance. And that's kind of what both Yogi and I did with each other. We gave
Yeah.
each other a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he actually, this is a fun fact. He grew 3 more inches after he knew that he was safe. Can
Hmm.
you imagine? He
Yeah.
was, they said he was full grown when we got him
Mm-hmm.
at 8 months. And I went, okay, that's good. He grew another 3 inches. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I've heard that's a thing. So with
Yeah.
animals and people.
And people, yeah. I mean, we might not grow physically, but we can grow tremendously when we can soften and start to cultivate some safety.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we soften and deepen, and
Mm-hmm.
it's true. And again, it's that vibration that we've been talking about. I believe that 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. The goal is to engage with life. I mean, that's why we're here, and we suffer greatly when we don't. And our dogs are no different. Our pets are no different. They need to engage with life. They're not meant to just sit on the couch or sit in a crate or a cage all day. That we suffer greatly, all of us, animals, humans. It's one of the greatest forms of suffering is taking ourselves away from our true nature, and
Yeah.
the quality of that our pets live is indicated by the quality of life that we live. So if we want them to have fulfilling lives, we've got to live fulfilling lives. We've got to figure out what is the thing that they want and what do I need in life too? And how can we all do it? And it might be scary. It might be really uncomfortable, but that's what they're always there pushing us towards. And when we listen to it, the reward it's incredible.
It is. And I find, especially with our times that we're living in, like we're animals too,
Mm-hmm.
and our bodies haven't caught up to all this tech. And, um, can we give ourselves, and I think about this too, and I just had to step back a bit from the computer. As much as the technology gives us this opportunity, you and I, is also to take a break and go, okay, well, we're going to do some gardening later.
Yeah.
We're going to do some walking and being out in nature. And, and I think I know I can get busy, and I find that I see that too, that
Yeah.
this busyness
Hmm.
and this disconnection is we've got to pull back and come and slow down. And I wonder, here's a question. Have we become so used to rushing and being stressed that we forgot what being calm is?
Mm. I don't think that that's quite possible.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel this pain every single day of this sedentary lifestyle, which the technology it's a placating, and the busyness is also placating. It's a way of distracting and disconnecting from this pain that's here. And I think this pain that every one of us is feeling is kind of like taking a wild bird and putting it in a cage, in the
Hmm.
sense that humans have been around for millions of years. And through the course of that human history, we've been nomadic travelers, migratory animals. And we still see
Mm.
this. We still see this in humans today, where they migrate. They want to go from one area to another. My ancestors would travel hundreds, thousands of miles every year, following herds of buffalo across the plains. And they would go into the lowlands during the cold months, and they would go up into the mountains during the hot months, and they would follow these herds all around. It was their livelihood. And then when they start getting all of that land shrunken and put onto reservations, the boredom was so great. The loss of that livelihood was so great that they'd fall into despair. And
Yeah.
we see that today. And I think everybody's dealing with that on some level or another, because we were all migratory animals. So when we're in these four walls, in this tiny little house, or if we're fortunate enough to have a garden and we can go out and engage with nature on some level, there's still that pain of, and I'm not meant to just stay here. I need to move. I need to be able to go out and do something. And unfortunately, we just see that destruction everywhere. So I think that's a signal that that nervous panic, anxiety that we try to disconnect from by being busy and distracting with tasks or the internet,
Yeah.
it's there for a reason, and it's telling us we got to do something with it. And by listening to it, I think that will bring us back to the calm. I certainly feel it when I get in touch with it.
I'm glad you said that, because I hope for that. I mean, I'm okay that way for sure, because I do take time every day to slow down and be nothing, and just nothing, just and I relish that time. And I can easily stay there for hours, and then I think, well, you better get going, because now you're going to get stressed if you don't. And though I find what I've noticed is when people don't do that, there's a resistance, or they feel bored. They
Hmm.
have that word bored, and I just go, is there a way for that quietness? And it's interesting, and I think you were using it when you're trapped, right? When you're in a
Hmm.
reserve, that people were bored. But I find that um, I just find some people struggle with staying busy, and they struggle with staying too busy. But then when they try and slow down, they struggle with that too.
Oh yes. Yeah.
So
I
that's
have some
interesting.
I have some dear friends, and they can't sit still.
Yeah.
They can't sit still for 30 seconds. And unfortunately, I mean, they would consider themselves social justice advocates. So they travel all around the world, and they
Mm.
go and they want to spread their ideology, their way of doing things, their way of thinking about things. So they're modern day colonists, or missionaries in a sense for public health and medicine, which is, when you colonize something is you take an idea or you take a bacteria, for instance, and then you inoculate it into another area with the hope that it would spread. So that's what they're doing. And unfortunately, as they are under the guise of social justice, they're spreading the same dynamics that cause the thing that they're claiming to be against right now.
Right.
And it's all because they can't sit still. Why can't
Mm.
they sit still? Why do they have to be so busy? I struggle with this too. Why is being bored abominable? Intolerable? Why can't I do it? Well, for me, and I can see it in them too, is my baseline got
Mm.
so high of panic and
Yep.
stress.
Yep.
When I was on that bike trip, I felt so alive because every single day was, one, an adventure, and two, there was a major problem to solve. Where are we going to sleep? What are we going to eat? Where are we going to get food? How are we going to avoid the people who are trying to run us off the road? How are we going to deal with the police who are going to try and arrest us for being out here? So on and so forth. And all of that just made me feel so alive. Why? I think it really connected me with the lineage that I come from. But I think we all have that.
Actually, our lineage, all of us, we were meant to get up in the morning and go hunt.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
we were not meant to sit around. We weren't meant
Mhm.
to, look at devices or anything. We were
Absolutely.
meant to survive. We were meant to go
Mhm.
out there and then have a big sprint and get our breakfast
Yeah.
and our food for the day. And then, we could
Engage
do
with
other
life.
things. And we've lost that. You're right. We're so out of touch
Yeah.
with,
And that's everybody. It's not
yep.
just Native Americans here. It's for millions of years, we have developed in that lifestyle, and this sedentary life here of agriculture, and you stay in this one area and don't leave it unless you have the riches or the privilege to leave this spot. This is
Right.
within the blink of an eye of our development. And
Yep.
like 2,000 years out of millions of years is nothing. So that boredom and then that pain, that desire that something's not quite right here, I think that's something we've really got to listen to because it's telling us something very important.
Right.
And
Yeah. And things are moving so fast.
so fast.
And I look at, my grandbabies and what they're being born into.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was a kid, I'm dating myself, black and white TV, though I didn't stay inside. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that was something we did on Sunday afternoons, but I wanted to be outside.
Right.
And yeah, I hear you. And how do we get back to that? And even if, if people can just try it for a few minutes, just to try, and it's practice again to kind of unpractice some of these habits and try a few minutes at a time. And maybe as they get more comfortable, then they can extend that time. And that's how I did it is I started very small because I knew I had to stay out of depressive episodes, and I knew I needed a daily practice.
Daily practice is crucial. And when there's an adventure involved with it, whether it's just being around other people who are doing it, it's much easier. It's much easier to do that. Or when, you have an animal, a dog, and, you wake up and it's so easy to fall into I'm going to go on my screen, I'm going to scroll, I'm going to do this thing. But then you look over at your dog and they can't do it, and they can't go get in the car and take themselves to the park. So you've got to get off your ass and go and do it. So
Yeah.
it's much easier when there's the pressure, the adventure of I'm going to go and do this thing. And I think that's the question right there that we all need to answer is, where is the call to life for me and how can I answer it? Because all that pain that we're feeling, that boredom, that intolerable, something's just not quite right, and we can call it depression because we're trying to suppress it or whatever. Every bit of that is a signal at saying, you've got to answer the call to re-engage with life.
Yep. And what is that?
Hmm.
And you know what I notice, and I think it is a truth, and you can challenge me, is that when we're quiet, when we settle and ground, that our inner wisdom, whether we download it and channel it, or whether it effervescence up, however you want
Hmm.
to have that, it comes.
Yeah.
Answers come,
Hmm.
ideas come. And so when people, or even I, say, how, just be quiet, and that inner wisdom or that channeling, however you practice, and maybe it's a combination of both,
Hmm. Yeah.
it comes. Those answers come.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you on that. When I'm working with somebody and they're
Nice.
suffering in all these patterns, I don't give them anything that they don't already have. I just help them, one, identify the barriers that are stopping them from seeing it, and then we account for those. And then once they can get those out of the way and really turn inward, all the wisdom's there. All the
Yep.
knowledge, all the information, everything that they need to know is right there. But the problem is we can't sit still for 5 seconds. I couldn't. I mean that. When
Oh,
I
yeah, no, I hear you. I hear it. I hear
Yep.
you.
When I first started learning to turn my attention inward and I started practicing, when I did it for 10 seconds, I celebrated. And that
Wow.
took me about 3 months of hours of practice every single day, focusing and focusing. And I couldn't do 10 seconds. Couldn't do it. And when I did it, that was a big deal. So I think a lot of people are in that. We can't do it because the pain is so great and we're trying to avoid the pain. And that's the depression right there, is we're using all of our energy. That's why we're exhausted, fighting the thing that's telling us you got to pay attention.
What I learned, and I learned it the hard way, was I would have a daily practice. I'd feel good, then I'd stop.
Hmm.
Boom.
Yeah.
then I then I'd go, okay, I've got to get practicing again,
Yeah.
and then I'd do my practice. Boom. And I did that a lot. I don't know how many times. The last fall was a deep one. It was hard to crawl out. And I went, Elka, you know the answer to this. You know, you promise yourself. And I did. I promised myself a daily practice, and I have kept that promise to myself. And the other cool thing, and I've experienced it. I've also heard other people, so be interesting your experience, is that when we invest in this time, and it is an investment,
Hmm.
that the rest of the day flows. And what I noticed is when I would stop and drop, I would be busier, more disconnected. Things didn't flow as well. And yet when I practiced, I would actually save time, or there would be synchronicities, flow. I wouldn't
Hmm.
have to put as much effort into whatever it was, whatever project. And
Yeah.
it's so, I don't know, do you have that experience yourself? I mean, I do know
Hmm.
it. That was a silly saying, but
Yeah. Yeah. That's crucial in my life too, is every single day I have to take time to block out all the noise and turn my attention inward. And sometimes it's just as simple as just taking an inventory and just seeing what's present.
yep,
What did I miss? What came up for me? Where did I have some emotion that I didn't address in some way? And how can I engage with it and work with it? And if I've been really good at doing the practice, then a lot of times there isn't any residual or unacknowledged things that are there. And then there's just so much creativity,
yep.
novelty, information, wisdom that's right there, and I'll know exactly what's the thing that I need to focus on. And when I work with people, the first time that I work with them for like the first, let's say 4 to 8 weeks, I do it in regiments. It's usually like a 6 or 8 week period. It's just focusing usually on building that practice. And then, of course, accounting for all the things that are, one, stopping them from doing it, or two, coming up when they're doing it. So it's learning to turn your attention inward and then learning to be present with accept, and ultimately listen to in order to soothe all the things that are stored up inside of us. Just like working with our animals, we got to be present with them. We got to listen to them. You got to understand, what do they want? What do they need? And then you've got to do it in a really constructive way. It's the
Yeah.
same thing for ourselves. And that practice is crucial. It's a game changer.
100%. And I live it, breathe it, and I do encourage people to practice. And even if they just try it, they can see the benefits. So, how was it? How did you get to the place of your daily practice that you knew that it was important?
It happened over the course of probably about 10 years.
Okay.
It started off with this notion of quieting the mind. I was realizing when I first started going to therapy in my early 20s that I was in complete panic mode
Mm,
24/7. From the
okay.
moment I
Yeah.
woke up to the moment I went to sleep, and then I'd wake up screaming throughout the night in total panics, nonstop. My heart was just dong, 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 dong. I was tense. And of course, I mean, when you look at the way I grew up, that makes perfect sense. My body developed at a high stage of panic. And because of that, my mind was so busy that I couldn't focus on anything for a couple seconds. You and I would talk, I wouldn't hear anything you're saying.
Yeah.
I could hear the words, I wouldn't understand it. And so when
Right.
I was in college, I'm trying to read really dense literature, and I would read a page and I wouldn't understand what it said. So this notion of, I got to quiet my mind, that was the first step right there. That's not what I agree of looking back on it. Like, that's not the goal, to quiet the
Hmm.
mind, but that's where I started. And just over the years of really starting to turn inward and seeing what's here, what's present, and why is it here? And when I really asked that question of, why are all these things that are coming up? Why is this panic here? Why is this fear here? Why is this unrelenting, white hot rage inside of me? Right? What is this about? Why is it still here? When I asked all those questions, well, what I found was it needed to be seen. It needed somebody to say, yes, oh, of course you feel that way. Of course you do. And
Yeah.
you don't have to go through it alone. I can be here with you. And so once I really started seeing that that was a need that I had that had never been fulfilled, I never had anybody do that for me when I was growing up. I had to be the person who was going to continuously do that, or these emotions were going to continue to get so big that they would consume my life. And once I had that realization, probably at age like 31, right around there, that's where I made this commitment. And I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah. It's interesting because it sounds like there's this journey of trying it and knowing, and then coming to a place where this is working, I'm keeping it.
Absolutely. It was not easy. Like I said, the 10-second
Yeah.
thing, it was so hard. But then I got to the point where I could do the practice, 24/7 for, 3, 4 days at a time, and nonstop, like while I'm sleeping and everything. And that was because I was just constantly practicing, just being
Mm,
present. And then once you get a taste of it and you can really be with it, Thich Nhat Hanh, spiritual leader, says the greatest gift you can give somebody that you care about is your presence. So I cared
mm,
so deeply for my dog, and I wanted to give her the best thing that I could give her, my presence. So there was a lot of motivation.
nice. Yeah, and thank you for that, because I know that I did give that to my dog too. I gave that to him. And where I found it was practicing gratitude.
Hmm.
And for me, I had lost my joy. And I was trying to find it again. So, doing lots of research, noticing again, being aware of how did my body shift, what was helping my thinking, and things like that. And so then I, um, I started a very tiny gratitude practice,
Hmm.
very, very tiny, because I knew I would do it. And I didn't always feel like it. And it took quite a while before I felt that effervescent joy. It kind of creeped up one day and I went, oh, there it is. And then it went away and I went, okay, that's it. So then I started practicing it twice a day. and in the morning and at night. And of course, it's grown since then. And yeah, it is. We got to just try it and just
Mhm.
stick with it. And yeah,
It's
for
a
sure.
seed. It's a seed, and you got to plant it, and then you got to nurture it. And the
Yeah,
more that you nurture it, the more it fruits. And then
yeah,
you can enjoy the fruits of it. But then there's a lot of weeds that grow around it, which is all the distraction and the busyness and all the emotions that we're trying to avoid. So we've got to go in and we've got to take care of all those weeds as well, so that way we can reduce them to allow the seeds of the practice, which is a way of saying that we engage with life.
yep,
Alka.
truly. Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's such a great practice. I'm really happy that we got to cover that. And I think it's so important for everybody. Like I said, that's what I help people with right away. And it's transformative. I'm sure same for you,
Cool.
because here it is.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel better than I ever have in my life. And I attribute that to the practice and my growth.
Yeah. And if you didn't have that, it would have, again, colored the life of yogi. So you helping yourself also helps others. And
Yeah,
it enables, it enables you to give a really good life to other people as well.
I believe in that. I do believe in that ripple. And I also, yeah, 100%.
Elka, I want to be mindful of time here.
Yes,
We're at the
yes.
end. So let me ask you a couple questions really fast before we end the recording here. First thing is, where can people find you if they want to see any more information or anything about that, anything that you're putting out?
Yeah, the easiest place is my website. So lovingyourlifebook.com, lovingyourlifebook.com. That they can find my links, they can find my books, there's free resources there. Yeah, so that's the easiest place.
Excellent. I will make sure to have that in the show notes. And
Thank you.
you're most welcome. And before I end the recording here, I'm just curious, is there any final message or word that you would want to leave anybody who's listening right now?
Yeah, is that life is practice. And is there a way of being ease and bringing that that grace to your practice? Yeah,
Beautiful.
that would be my message is just to keep practicing. And of course, yeah, and yeah, that would be, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Alka, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Julie. Thank you for the opportunity and just being with that flow. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, because we wouldn't be here if you hadn't reached out. So thank you again. I really appreciate this.
Thank you. Bless you.